morning, everybody. Welcome to Sundays at Summit Health. Since it is our last ever daylight savings, I wanted to talk a little bit about sleep today. Also, with it being fall back instead of spring forward, meaning we get an extra hour of sleep, I actually wanted to address oversleeping, which is something that doesn't really get talked about very often. A lot of times when we're talking about sleep, we are always encouraging people to get more sleep and better quality sleep, find more time for sleep, all of those things, but we rarely address what happens when you are getting too much. It is something that a couple of my clients have brought up that they think they're actually getting too much sleep and it's making them more tired. So, we're going to cover all of that today. We're going to cover when getting more than 7 to 9 hours of sleep is a good thing. When is it not such a good thing? How do you know if you're somebody who needs more sleep or less sleep? We're going to cover all of that today. And then a couple of tips to improve your quality of sleep and a few other things. So we'll just go ahead and dive right in. Um, One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because I've come across quite a few articles, and I'm sure you have too, that have stated that getting too much sleep can lead to greater risk of heart disease or death and all of these other things. And if you are somebody who regularly sleeps more than 8 hours, articles like this can make you question if you are getting too much sleep, and if you are, is it harmful to you? Today, we're going to look at some of the science. A lot of this information is from sleep experts, sleep researchers, and we are going to take a look and see when getting too much sleep is something to worry about. Um, to give you a quick spoiler, chances are you have nothing to worry about, but we're going to go over what happens if you do. So, how much sleep is too much sleep? On average, most people need anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, but that is an average, and it's not this rule that applies to get good health. It's not this edict. It is honestly just an average of the amount of sleep that healthy people get. So if you're a little under or a little over, it doesn't mean that you're not a healthy person. This is just an average. You can start moving out either direction. Some people need more sleep than that, some people don't need as much. And people who fall outside of the average fall into basically three main categories. One is people who need fewer than 7 hours of sleep. Now, don't get too excited. I am not giving you a green light to start shorting yourself on sleep and saying that I said it was okay. People who need fewer than 7 hours of sleep are referred to as natural short sleepers. And these are genetically gifted folks who just don't need as much sleep as the average person. The reason is they're blessed with the increased levels of a hormone called orexin that allows them to feel energetic and clear headed with just 5 to 6 hours of sleep. So, genetically, they overproduce this hormone. They feel more alert and awake than most of us do after 5 to 6 hours of sleep. There is an important caveat though. Plenty of people who are getting less than 7 hours of sleep are not natural short sleepers. This is probably a lot of us listening. Rather, these types of people skimp on sleep, ranging for a lot of reasons, right? Like if we're skimping on sleep, it's not because we just don't like sleeping. It's usually because of bedtime procrastination or being a parent or my personal brand is that always on work ethic where I'm I'm pretty much available from 6 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. If you are not genetically a natural short sleeper, skimping on sleep likely means you'll either feel like trash the next day or you won't feel like trash the next day. And it's easy then to think, oh, I must be a natural short sleeper. I feel fine when I only get 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Not necessarily the case. You might not feel like garbage the next day because you're so used to the effects of sleep deprivation that you don't even remember what it feels like to be well rested. If that's not enough, over time, your risk for heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and all types of things can go up as well. So, we'll talk a little bit more later about the connections between sleep and health, but I just wanted to throw that out there. These next two categories are people who sleep more than average. So, one is people who need more than 9 hours of sleep. This is almost the opposite of the natural short sleeper. Their genetic makeup makes them a natural long sleeper. They need 10 to 12 hours of sleep in order to feel refreshed. Their genetics also cause them to feel tired more quickly than other people. Included in this longer sleep category, regardless of genetics, are children, teenagers, and a lot of young adults, all of whom need more sleep so that their body can continue to develop, especially their brains. Kids, teenagers, young adults, they just need more sleep. Certain prescription medications also can increase your sleep time. In a lot of cases, if it's a long term medication, your body will get used to it and that sleepiness will be reduced when you get used to your medication. Or if you go off the medication, usually that effect is reversed pretty quickly. And the third category is people who need more than 13 hours of sleep, which is a lot. Some people can sleep 14, 17, 24 hours with very little interruption and still wake up feeling really tired. If you're one of these people, this might be an indication that there is something wrong with your sleep quality and not necessarily the quantity. For example, sleep disorders could be a problem. Something like sleep apnea, where you are waking up rapidly multiple times a night, very abruptly, or insomnia, where you're not able to fall asleep. These types of things can disrupt sleep, causing you to wake up feeling unrefreshed. There's also a variety of health conditions like epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, and depression that can lead to hypersomnia, which is the inability to stay awake. So you have a hard time staying awake, and it leads you to fall asleep at inappropriate times. Narcolepsy, which is another hypersomnia, which means inability to stay awake, hypersomnia. Narcolepsy is another hypersomnia condition, which causes you to feel tired all the time, leads you to fall asleep at inappropriate or even dangerous times, like while you're having a conversation. That would be an example of inappropriate, or driving a vehicle, which would be an example of dangerous. These types of disorders require medical diagnosis and medical treatment. So if you think any of the above that I've mentioned are true for you, please mention it to your doctor. Um, Now we're gonna go a little bit more into, okay, I don't have a sleep disorder. I don't think I am a natural oversleeper. So what's the harm in me getting too much sleep if I'm fairly average? For the average person, if you are sleeping, you probably need to be sleeping. So I have this conversation a lot with the athletes that I work with. I teach them an exercise called progressive muscle relaxation to teach them to get to sleep a little bit better or to be able to calm their minds by calming their bodies. Um, when I teach this, a lot of times it's at 6 p.m., all the lights are off, they're laying down doing a breathing exercise, and sometimes they fall asleep. And they all of a sudden feel guilty, like, oh, sorry, I fell asleep. And my response is simply this: if you are sleeping, you probably needed to be sleeping. That's because our bodies have this set point of homeostasis, which we have talked about before when it comes to stress, how our bodies have just kind of this happy um, baseline. Our bodies have the same thing when it comes to sleep. Um, get too little sleep one night, and your body will respond trying to get you back to homeostasis by craving more sleep the next night. Alternatively, you may have noticed that if you get more sleep than usual by, let's say, sleeping in on the weekend, you'll likely find yourself wide awake later in the evening. Or even this morning, you might be experiencing this where you were planning to sleep until 7:30 and your body waked you up at 6:30 because it was with the extra hour of sleep that was added in, it didn't need that extra sleep and you were wide awake a little bit earlier than normal. It can also happen later though. If you sleep in until 10, you might not feel tired when it's your bedtime that night. There are, however, some exceptions, and we will talk about those later. So, does oversleeping harm your health? Despite all the scary headlines, it's likely that long sleep itself poses little to no health problems. That's because most people who sleep more than most, it's often a result of a chronic health problem, not the cause. So, a lot of these articles are written to make you think that oversleeping is the cause of your health problems. More likely than not, it's a symptom of your health problems, and that's why they continue to show correlation. Occasionally, the problem is bidirectional, which means that the health problem, so let's say you have insomnia, disturbs your sleep, and then because your sleep is disturbed, your health problem gets worse, which is your insomnia, which leads to worse sleep, and then the cycle just continues. These problems aren't only related to sleep disorders like sleep apnea and narcolepsy. It can be due to diabetes, hypothyroidism, depression, chronic fatigue, heart disease, a whole number of things that are affecting your sleep, and then your lack of sleep affects the problem. For those kinds of conditions, it's important to note that oversleeping doesn't cause them, rather, it is a symptom of them. Um, when medical problems disturb sleep, it takes a person a longer period of time to then be sufficiently recovered. If you don't think of any of the scary stuff we just mentioned is going on, and you regularly are getting more than 10 hours of sleep and you feel energetic and clear headed during the day, that's great. Enjoy your sleep, and you most likely have nothing to worry about. If it doesn't sound like it's a sleep condition or anything seriously wrong, and you just like sleeping that amount of time and you feel good, go for it. On the other hand, if you are craving naps, you are tired, have brain fog, you're irritable, you have a hard time making decisions, there might be an underlying issue that's worth exploring with your doctor. If all of that's occurring after you're getting 10 hours of sleep. So, for those of us who are sleeping more than 10 hours but maybe don't need to and would like to just get more quality sleep in that 7 to 9 hours, I've got a couple um, tips here that I want to make sure I leave you guys with. One, set up your bedroom to be just a sleep oasis. When your sleep environment makes you feel safe and cozy, it's easier for your brain to relax and allow you to just sleep more deeply. Another one is blocking out light. So, your circadian rhythm, which is what makes you feel awake in the morning and tired at night, your circadian rhythm responds to changes in light. So, for most people, the darker the room is, the better they sleep. If you can't get your room as dark as needed, consider experimenting with a sleep mask that covers your eyes and helps to block out that light. Number three, adjusting the temperature. In addition to light, your circadian rhythm also responds to changes in temperatures, which makes you feel sleepy as your body cools down. A nice little trick for this, yes, your thermostat helps, take it down a couple degrees at night. That's really all you need. But another one is taking a hot bath or shower before bed, because then your body will be signaled to cool itself down, and that will help you to get sleepy. Number four, we have a good handful of ladies who tune into this every week who are going through the lovely experience of menopause. If hot flashes are keeping you awake at night, consider investing in a cooling mattress pad or a fan. It seems like an extravagant expense, but at the same time, you spend about a third of your time in your bed. So if you have the money or you're willing to save for it, I would recommend that highly. And the fifth one is a tough one for a lot of people, but considering sleeping alone. I'm not advocating for you kicking your spouse out of bed, but trying to avoid things like your pet or your child sleeping with you if possible, that can really help limit the number of disruptions that you're experiencing throughout the night. Another thing I wanted to touch on is a question I get a lot where people have said that sleeping too much, like specifically on the weekends, makes them more tired. They report feeling more tired when they sleep in on the weekends than they do during the weekday when they have to be up really early and maybe are even short on sleep. I wanted to just touch on this quick because it's likely one of two things. One is oversleeping is a response to undersleeping. So, some people who sleep 10 or more hours on the weekend, it's because they're sleeping 6 or less hours during the week, and your body is going to ask for more sleep where it knows that it can get it. I'm not going to go into sleep debt very much because I keep coming across conflicting information about it, but to keep it really simple, if you are tired, you probably need sleep. If you're getting enough sleep and you're still feeling tired, consider using some of the tips that we just talked about to improve your sleep quality. Um, but realistically, if you're waking up on the weekends and still tired, that means your body just still wants more sleep. If there's no changes with the sleep quality, you might want to talk to your doctor to see if there's something more going on. Second reason you might feel a little bit sleepier after getting more sleep is that sleeping in can severely disrupt your sleep wake signaling, that circadian rhythm that we mentioned. If you usually wake up at 6 a.m., sleeping in on the weekends will disrupt your brain's ability to release all of the brain chemicals that we need to feel refreshed and ready to go. Although this is less related to the amount of sleep and more related to the time of day that you're sleeping, there are things that cue your body to wake up and wind down, and I want to hit on a few of those. Because if we can regulate those, then you might be able to still get some extra sleep without waking up feeling so groggy. One is the outdoor and overhead light that sets your brain's circadian clock. Being awake when it's dark or being asleep when it's light can make it very hard to find a rhythm that cues your body to feel tired or alert. And this bleeds over into the week as well. If your body's used to being awake when it's dark and asleep when it's light, those cues are not going to work the way they should to help you feel awake or asleep. Um, the blaring noise of your alarm clock triggers a release of cortisol and a lot of other alertness chemicals, also known as stress chemicals. So if you're experiencing a stress chemical right away in the morning, it might lead to a different chemical balance throughout your day that's not going to sustain energy the way that it should, because we should not be experiencing those stress hormones so early in our day. If you're able to wake up without an alarm, if that's a luxury that you have, do that. That is something that a lot of us envy, but that's a good thing. Even switching to a more calming noise to wake you up or having light to wake you up, using a haptic alarm if you have some sort of device that you wear on your wrist, those can help you not release so much cortisol. Another big one is stressful situations that haven't been resolved. This one has been on my mind a lot lately. I've been listening to some different um, science behind meditation, and this seems to be the biggest one. So, a lot of us don't have time during the day to just sit down and be with our thoughts. We're usually doing 1 to 2 to 3 other things. So, when we lay down at night, that's the first time our body's experiencing any kind of stillness. And with that being the case, that's when our mind is going to process a lot of the things that are going on in our lives. This is another reason that, excuse me, you have so many of your best ideas in the shower, is because what else are you doing? You're just showering. It's quiet, you're alone. Um, and that's when you have your best ideas, is because that is a form of meditation. So if you're having a hard time falling asleep because you're not able to stop your what I call the hamster wheel, where the hamster just keeps running and running and won't go to sleep and won't let you rest. Consider doing some sort of meditation practice or even journaling earlier in the day, even if it's just 5 minutes. Allow your brain to get those things from the subconscious to the conscious and create a little bit of separation from them so that when it's time to go to bed, you can just go to bed and you're not having to do your meditation that your mind will find time to do. Caffeine is another one. So when we sleep in, everything in our day gets delayed. So if you normally have your cup of coffee at 6 a.m. and now you're having it at 9, your body's rhythm for the day, especially energy wise, is going to be delayed 3 hours. Now it's Sunday night and it's time to wind down, and you are wired because you had your coffee too late. Breakfast is another one. We work really hard to sync up our hunger cues with our eating schedule. All week we work hard on that. And then it's delayed because we slept in, and then that leads to you feeling hungrier later in the day. Maybe you normally eat dinner at 6:30, but tonight you ate it at 8, and you're going to bed still digesting, which might cause some sleep disruptions. And then the last one is just feeling a bit rushed when you're racing out the door. So now that you've slept in, you just might feel a little bit crunched for time the rest of the day. Again, those stress hormones are going to kick in and throw off your rhythm. So when you occasionally oversleep, you deprive your brain of some or all of these cues. Some of the wake up signals might not take place at all. Others, like overhead lighting and caffeine, take place hours later and your brain is still getting used to them. All of this to say the end result is that you feel tired because you got more sleep. It's not the sleep that's the culprit, it's sort of the consequences the rest of the day that will lead you to feel tired. So, how can you tell? This is kind of just the bottom line. How can you tell if you're sleeping too much? The best way to ask yourself if you need more sleep is during the day, if you were to sit down and read a book or watch a show, do you feel a really strong urge to nod off in the middle of the day? If the answer is yes, it is an indication that you are not getting enough restorative sleep at night, which might be the sign of a sleep disorder or just a sleep quality issue. On the other hand, if you're clocking a lot of bedtime hours and feel energized during the day, 10 plus hours could just be your body's natural sleep rhythm. So if you are a long sleeper and feel good, don't worry about it. You have nothing to worry about as long as these other things are not true. If you wake up and you feel good to go, do your best to spend the amount of time